What's up, guys? Welcome back to LIFM, and as requested by a few people, this is the current version of the Shattergang Brothers EDH deck. As I said when I posted the videos, it's still a work in progress, and a few people suggested that I post a deck tech and I can take possible suggestions into consideration. So as the deck stands right now, it's running 37 lands, 30 creatures. I do think cuts can be made somewhere. Maybe lands, maybe I'm running too many lands. As you can see, my curve is heavier in the 3 and 4 drop. It's not that heavy in the 5 or 6 drop. But I'll go through the land process here. Command Tower, Stomping Ground, Temple of Abandon, Land War Waste. I'm thinking of running the rest of these lands for my colors. Also, getting the black-red Shockland as well. Overgrown Tomb, Fetch Lands, Woodland Cemetery, Skull and Tarn, so more fetch lands. Bazooka Bog, because I do feel like graveyard removal is pretty good. Swamps, I'm running 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2. Yeah, I'm running 8 swamps. So you can see the deck's more oriented towards green and black than red. So the shell is very similar to my Nat deck. As far as mountains go, I'm running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can probably cut this with the non-basics I'm running, and forest I'm probably running the most. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 forest. Then Ancient Tomb for fast starts, Strip Mine for problem lands, Mana Crypt for ramping. In my one slot, Soul Ring, Duress, which is actually coming very handy. On the play, Duress, you can hit people's Mana Crypts, Soul Rings, etc. I also run Phyrexian Reclamation because it works pretty well with my commander and other things in the deck to recur my creatures. I've had people just scoop to Phyrexian Reclamation, and I don't want to say Witness because Witness is justifiable, but simpler cards than Witness with recursion. Elf of Deep Shadows, because it taps for black. Vinehorn Elf, because it's another Land War Elf. In my 2-drop spot, Scavenging Ooze, for the same reason I run Bazooka Bog, Graveyard Hate. Elvish Visionary, it's a 2-drop, it cantrips, and that's exactly the kind of creatures I feel like I want to be running with Shattergang, so I get value out of it. Library speaks for itself. I feel like Oversold is iffy in the deck. I feel like it's a worse version of Phyrexian Reclamation most of the times. I've got this online maybe twice in this specific deck, but I know it works really well when it does work. Now, adding red did open up a slot for Destructive Revelry, which is naturalized that does 2 damage to the permanent's controller. I like this card, and it fits in the deck very well. Abrupt Decay is just a really solid card. It can get rid of any one of these mana rocks, and it can't be countered. Chainer's Edict for when you're facing Voltron type commanders that have protection from you sometimes. This works really well. And early game, just to get rid of stuff like Land War Elf. This works really good in my opinion. I'm running these 2 artifacts that they do seem mediocre, but there's been games, and this is the reason I put them in. There's been games where with Shattergang Brothers and having one of these out, I've gotten rid of a lot of mana rocks. So I think they can work really well. I'm not opposed to cutting one of them, but probably not both. And moving on to my 3 mana spots. Yavimaya Elder. It's an okay card. It works really well with my commander because when I sack it, I do get to search for lands. Yavimaya Dryad is just another Wood Elves for me. I like like I said in one of the videos, I like these. They seem really weak as creatures, but they're really good utility creatures. They come in or die and they do something, so you don't mind sacking them to your commander's ability or one of your other effects like that. So Wood Elves, same thing, just slightly better. Great Stag Beetle, it's a 3-drop with protection from colors that matter, and it can't be countered. This has won me games by itself, because my opponents just couldn't deal with it outside of something like Cyclonic Rift. It's brutal. Glissa, it's a great blocker, it's a great attacker. It gets back stuff like this, Mimic Vat, Solemn, Worm Coil, Soul Ring. It gets back a lot of stuff in conjunction with my other cards, especially my commander. Fleshbag Marauder, same thing. Witness. Dark Imposter is in here because it just works. I don't know if I'm opposed to cutting this card or not because it's won me a lot of games. There's just been games where my opponent couldn't deal with it and I just exiled their whole board basically. Courser is a card I'm trying. It seems decent. In this deck, however, it does seem like a worse version of Oracle because the life gain's usually not that relevant. But I mean, it's 3 for a 2/4. It seems decent. I'm just trying it out. The second reason I put it in is because it's an enchantment creature, and sacking an enchantment has been very productive here. I usually end up having to sack Oversold Cemetery or Phyrexian Reclamation to get rid of trouble enchantments. This is another, it's another enchantment that I can sack, basically. So it doubles as a creature to sack or an enchantment to sack, so that's why I'm trying it out. It seemed like one of the better enchantment creatures to test. Phyrexian Arena speaks for itself, and it's another enchantment you can sack. Tribute is a instant speed edict. That's why it's in there with some life gain. If I can get suggestions for better removal, I'm not opposed. Putrefy stays in. It hits artifacts or creatures, so it just stays in. Same thing with Murder. This could probably be replaced with the better version, the one that hits Planeswalkers. I'm drawing a blank right now. I don't have it online, so I will say that. Beast Within will probably stay, because it hits anything. Read the Bones is pretty good at refilling my hand. Kodama's Reach and Cultivate I keep, especially when I'm running 3 colors. These are really good at fixing my mana. Mimic Vet's a little iffy. It's just a way of getting the abilities of some of these creatures back. This guy, Wickerbow Elder, I just personally like the card. It's 4 for a 3/3 that becomes a 4/4 when you naturalize something. It works really well in conjunction with cards like Black Sun Zenith. I've done it before, but this is more of a gimmick than actual strategy. I've used the ability Black Sun Zenith for like 3 while my opponent's creatures out, and this guy is naturalizing a stick. Sangromancer, I like this card a lot. It's a flyer. It gains me a good amount of life, especially when I have starts, when I have Mana Crypt out. It just seems really solid. Reaper, because she seems to go well with the Sakin theme. So that's why she's in there. I get to scry every time another creature dies. And surprisingly, people don't want to block a creature that can get Death Touch. So 4 for a 4/5 that can get Death Touch or Hexproof. It's decent. If there's good suggestions, I'm not opposed to cutting it, but it's worked pretty good so far, so I might not. Perforos, I'm not gonna lie, Perforos is in the deck because I have a lot of small creatures and I have a few things that create tokens. So that's why Perforos is in there, and it also pumps a lot of my small creatures when I'm attacking. Oracle, for the same reason I'm running Courser. Masked Admirers, a lot of you guys have seen my Nat deck. Masked Admirers is just a really good card. You sack it to your commander, it can come back, you can put it to the graveyard with Jared's Order, play a creature, pay 2 mana, return it without the use of Phyrexian Reclamation or Oversold or anything like that. It's just really solid, in my opinion, in these kind of decks. Now, red also opened up Huntmaster. I don't see any drawback to playing this card in this deck. It's a 2/2 for 4. It gains me 2 life. It also makes me a token. I want stuff like that for Shattergang. And if he flips, then it's just more fun. Looking at my mana cost, I can easily flip Huntmaster back in 1 turn, no problem. Urbost is here for card draw and to stop my opponents from gaining life. This is not going to get cut, period. It's just a really solid card in this kind of deck. Bloodbraid Elf I also get access to, and as you can see, Bloodbraid Elf triggers more than half my deck. Xenagos, just a really good card. I usually have a few creatures out, and if I don't, Xenagos makes tokens that I can use my commander to sack. It also fuels stuff like Perforos. Garruk, I've talked about this Garruk many times. It's probably the best 1v1 Garruk, in my opinion. Garruk the Relentless. This Garruk has won me games by itself, single-handedly. In this deck and in my Nath deck. I mean, single-handedly, people didn't have an answer for it right away, and they just lost the game because they couldn't get out from under it. So this stays. Sever, it's done pretty good for me against indestructible creatures. It's one of the only 2 reasons it's in there. The other one being tokens with the same name. So I know a lot of people think it's a pretty bad card, especially in 1v1. I'm not sure I'm going to cut it. It's very similar to how I'm using Dark Imposter. Jared's Order is just a really good tutor in this deck. I run Recursion. It's just really solid. Explosive Vegetation, it's the only one I've kept in. All the ones that search for just Forest, I believe I took them all out. Explosive Vegetation hits all 3 of my colors. Barter in Blood, it's just another Edict effect, and usually I have a few creatures or creatures that I don't mind losing to Barter in Blood. Solemn just fits everything that this deck wants to do, that's why it's there. Same thing with Thragtusk. Bloodgift Demon it's a 5/4 flying beat stick that's also a Phyrexian Arena that's targetable, so that's why that's in there in my 5 slot. Acidic Slime, in my opinion, it's such a useful card. It always hits something, so it's just really useful. Vraska, very similar in that sense that it can hit almost anything, just not lands. Liliana, I use this to tutor. I do use it to make people discard, but the strongest ability, in my opinion, is the tutor ability, so that's why it's there. Primal Command, it sets my opponents back, especially if they're playing lands that come into play tap, or they played a big non-land permanent on their turn, like an artifact or enchantment that costs a lot, and then I usually I'd say 90% of the time, I bounce a permanent, and I tutor for a creature. And it's usually Acidic Slime, because usually whatever I put on top, Acidic Slime can hit. The only thing that I can put on top that Acidic Slime cannot hit is Planeswalker. 6th slot is pretty simple. Grave Titan and Wormcoil both work really, really well with Shattergang. You know, 2 tokens from this, 2 tokens from this dying. This also happens to be able to be sacked as an artifact as well as a creature. Green Sun Zenith gets most of the things in my deck. There's only a few creatures in here that it doesn't get, so it just works really well. And turn 2 Zenith for a mana creature is pretty good. Black Sun Zenith is my only mass board wipe card, and yeah, this could probably be replaced with Damnation or something, but I like the control of what's being killed. So that's the current version of the deck. You guys requested it, so comments and suggestions on what you change. Keep in mind that this is geared more towards 1v1 and not group play. So keep that in mind when you're making suggestions. And as always, thanks for watching.